Warning. This episode contains adult language and adult humor.
Since when have trumpet players ever been considered adults?
If you are easily offended by these types of conversations, consider switching to the oboe. Welcome to the Trumpet Gurus Hang podcast. I'm your host, Jose Johnson. My featured guest for this special super hang is Wayne Bergeron. Wayne is one of the world's most highly respected trumpet players. He's a great player and a great guy. But despite all of his success, he's had his fair share of hardships too. So join us as Wayne shares his recent experiences of battling cancer. Oh, and we are joined by some very special guests that make this a supersized hang you won't believe. So pour yourself a big glass, pull up a chair, and let the hang begin. Welcome to the Trumpet Gurus Hang podcast, and I am so happy to have with me today Mr. Wayne Bergeron. Wayne was my first guest on my very first episode of this, and I'm just so happy to have him back, mostly because we're going to talk a lot about some of the stuff that he's been going through recently, and I think it's going to be really inspirational to a lot of you, and just a fun hang. So, Wayno.
I'll try to be fun. You know, what a drag I can be.
Yeah, I know, man. You look great. You look great, man.
Thank you, man. I'm 50 pounds. What was the date of our last show?
Man, it was in, hell, I don't even remember. It was 33 weeks ago, 34 weeks ago. So whatever that is, I can't do math, man, you know?
Oh, 33 weeks ago? So it's before I started my treatments, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you had just.
I've probably been diagnosed. Yeah.
Yeah, you had just been diagnosed because I was in the hospital. Actually, I just gotten out of the hospital.
That's right.
And you and Barb were messaging back and forth to me and my wife about me, and then right. I get out and find out that you've got more serious shit going on. So then we were just like I'm back and forth for quite a while. But
but it's all kind of got a happy ending, you know, because, I started my treatments on May 11th and I finished on June 29th.
Mm-hmm.
So 35 radiations, 7 weeks of chemo. And then I had to wait for everything to heal because the tumor was over here. I wait for everything to heal. And so I just got my PET scan this month. So on November 9th, I got my PET scan, and then 2 days later, I got a call from the doctor giving me clean bill of health for the time being, for sure. Anyway, you know, so man, that was, you can imagine, best Thanksgiving ever for me.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Yeah, Jose, thanks, man. And this is my first sip of anything other than wine since I started my treatments. I stopped drinking completely, of course. So
yeah, well,
hopefully I'm doing that for you.
Oh, thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother.
That's good. Oh my God.
Yeah. Part of the reason for this is, I mean, one, I just love hanging with you. That's just bottom line. But you know, being a fellow cancer survivor, this is a club that you're happy to welcome people to in one way, but in the other way, you hate having to know that someone else has gone through the same thing. So, I know for me that as much as I feel like, you know, I'm unexceptional in so many ways, my story hasn't impacted a lot of people just because of the things I've had to go through. And for you, it's the same thing, that now you put yourself into a different, because of circumstances, you're now in a different world where you're able to impact people on a completely different level. And as great as it is to impact people as a trumpet player, the fact that you're going to be able to talk to people about things that are truly life or death, that takes your impact to a completely different level. So, I'm so happy to be able to talk with you about this and to have you share, because, man, for the past month and a half, I have gotten all of these comments or questions from people on Messenger or things like that saying, hey, have you talked to Wayne? How is he doing? You know, I've heard he's doing okay, or is he doing okay? So I'm just happy to be able to put this out and to have you actually tell your story to people. So you are okay, as far as
I'm
I can tell.
okay. Yeah.
I can, as far as you, yeah.
Well, I'm okay. Am I okay? No. Got to get a clean PET scan. Yes, I got a clean PET scan. Am I okay? I'm never okay.
Yeah,
I,
well,
I, I lost 50 pounds through this ordeal. So I'm pretty trim right now.
oh,
You
look
know,
at you,
yeah.
sexy,
So
sexy.
I'm doing 60 sit-ups a day, and I started. I'm doing Pilates. Said
Uh-huh.
Wayne Bergeron never, but I started that, and that's anybody that's done that, it's pretty impressive. So I'm trying to rebuild my core because of the weight loss. My lips are thinner. I'm not as strong. You get used to playing against that mass. So uh, I'm trying to get my mojo back here. I've been playing for a while. I played through the treatments,
You're just a
which was
beast, man.
hard. When I started the treatments, uh, I planned on playing through it because I know Ryan Anthony was playing Mahler 5. He'd go do chemo, then go play Mahler 5, and I couldn't believe he's such a beast.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I'll be okay, but I didn't understand the radiation in conjunction with the chemo. So when I started my chemo on a Monday, I was fine Monday and Tuesday. When Wednesday hit, look out, because they put nausea medication in the IV. They put stuff in there and then they hydrate you and all that. Then they give you the chemo. Well, that takes a couple of days to kick in. And when it kicks in, I got so sick, nauseous, but then they've got these meds in you that keep you from getting sick. So
Yeah.
the nausea meds don't make you not nauseous. They just keep a lid on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you wish you could throw up, but they don't want you to throw up, and so you're fighting that. And then they let you know that the nausea medication causes constipation, but that should be in like big capital bold letters with like a skull and crossbones next to it. I'm going to spare you the ugly details, but it was an ugly week, man. And to the point where I thought I was going to have to call an ambulance one night.
Yeah. Well, Wayne, I thought you would be used to it because, everybody's told me that knows you for years that you're full of shit anyway. So.
Why did I not see that coming? So it was a rough week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I stopped playing for about 3 weeks at that point. The trumpet was the furthest thing. I said, man, I'm just going to deal with this right now. There's no work. This COVID thing is happening. There's nothing happening, So I was okay for a while, and I got them to switch. They adjusted my medication. So when I did I did chemo every 3 weeks. So when they did the next one, they put a new drug in there, and it helped quite a bit, actually. So then I was able to start playing again. But at that point, now the radiation treatments, which I did 5 days a week, they're starting to kick in. I know you didn't do radiation. We talked about
that. Right.
So when that started kicking in, let me tell you, that was rough, And there's much worse cancers than when I had, I had HPV, squamous cell carcinoma in my neck here. He said, but there is no worse treatment. And he said, untreated, it will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, 3 phrases I heard from him that day. This is 2 days after all my work from COVID went away. Everything I was doing was canceled.
Right.
Like 20 guest artist concerts, a bunch of recording. So all of a sudden my income went from, pretty good income to nothing.
Yeah.
And 2 days later, I was diagnosed with cancer. So it's been a shitty fucking year.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember because honestly, I remember that conversation with you because we were talking like kind of right after I got out of the hospital, which is right before you got your diagnosis. And we were talking about how, you're just getting ready to start your season with like doing all your guest artist stuff and stuff like that. And you're like, shit, man, this is just completely dried up. And then like, a few days later, like, well, hey, it just got worse.
So when you thought things couldn't get any worse,
Yeah.
But when I started, back to playing, when I did start playing again, the radiation stuff started kicking in. So my throat was getting sore, my skin was getting burnt, my muscles in my neck were tightening up because the radiation. I have to stretch. It's for the rest of my life. My muscles will be tight.
Right.
So I have to stretch, and so my neck expands, as everybody knows when I play. I have this thing going on, and the muscles were so tight it wouldn't let it expand, and it was hurting so bad it was like swallowing glass. So trying to play the trumpet, I could play a G on top of the staff barely at 4 weeks in. So I was practicing. I just practiced soft. I played what I could play. I played Clark study number 1 and 2 every day, just soft up to G on top of the staff. And I had to keep the horn on my face just to keep some semblance of chops together, when the treatment stopped, I actually had a recording session 6 weeks later for this Minions movie, The Rise of Gru. It's not out yet, but and I said, okay, well, I should be able to play by then.
Yeah.
And I figured I wouldn't be 100%, but I'd be able to play. So I started practicing real hard at the end of the treatments, and as the stuff started wearing off a little bit, I started getting better and better. I got to the point where I could play pretty well, and then they moved this recording session up 8 days sooner, 3 days of recording. So I get in there, and I'm to be honest with you, I'm not 100%, of course. So I called the other trumpet players that were on the date, and I let them know. I just said, hey, look, I'm thinking about taking myself off these sessions because I don't know if I'm going to be ready or be able to, And they said, no, don't do that, man. Just, play third or fourth trumpet, whatever. When the time comes, you'll know what to do, and we'll work it out. So,
right.
So I didn't tell the contractor or anything. I just, I came in and I sat in the first trumpet book, and I let them know that we were going to be splitting the parts up. So we were splitting the first trumpet money up too, because the first trumpet pays double scale.
Right.
So 200%. So, and I didn't want to be passing parts and, and not earning the money. So I ended up with John Lewis, and I ended up splitting it up, and there was some piccolo trumpet. I said, hey, you got to play this. I haven't touched my piccolo trumpet in 4 months, so he played some stuff, and then I played some stuff, and it was going pretty well. I felt pretty confident. There's a couple of things I didn't want to try to play that were just, some like very exposed legit solos that were very long-winded, and I was short of breath, So, so I had John play those, and he sounded magnificent, as he always does. And but there was one thing that had a high G on the end of it. And so I said to John, I go, hey, you got this? And he goes, no.
That's what we pay you for.
And I go, man, well, I hadn't hit a high G. And then they decided they wanted to overdub it. So they recorded the track without me. So now I have to sit there and I have to try to hit IG with everybody watching me by myself. And the track ran, and it was just a little thing like, whatever it was. Bap, to what? Like that. And I got it. I got it in one take, and it hurt. The throat hurt.
Yeah.
And I went, it was a lot of work, but I got it. And everybody applauded. My colleagues all know what I'm going through, and
right.
They gave me a round of applause. And then from the booth, because in the booth, they don't know what's going on with me, So they said, oh, that was great. Can we get one more for safety? And I went, absolutely not. And then we just did the one. So that was the hardest thing I had to do, in these Minions movies and Despicable Me movies, it's been the same composer for all of them. And he can write really hard. And he likes to write high stuff for me. And this movie was not as bad. The last one was really hard. This one, not as bad. Just a few things to play. So I was able to get through it. And actually it gave me, after hitting that note and getting through that, the next 2 days seemed easier to me because the pressure was kind of off. Like, oh man, okay. I'm getting through some hard stuff here. I'm going to be okay.
Right.
I'm still not 100%. Even now.
Right.
Months later. So that's why I'm doing Pilates and I'm working out and I'm trying to embrace this weight loss because I've lost even more weight since then. And I think I'm in a pretty good place weight-wise right now. So instead of getting big again and bulking up, I want to get strong.
Yeah.
And meet it that way. So I took a lesson with Bobby Shue a few days ago,
Yeah.
and I went back and revisited him. We've been friends for years and years and years. And
Right.
when I'm in trouble, he's my go-to.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter what.
Yeah.
I've circled back to some other stuff. I used to do some James Stamp stuff, because I had some dental issues like 30 years ago. And I got, anyway, long story, but I was in bad shape, and Boyd Hood, I was studying with him from the LA Philharmonic, and he put me on this stamp regiment, and it fixed me. So I went back to that. I go, hey, this worked before. Let me go back to this stuff again. And I went to a little bit of Caruso that I used to do. And I used to do that. At one point I did it a lot, but it used to make me really stiff. So I, stopped doing it. So I started doing it again, and it was making me really stiff again. So I just do little small doses of that.
Yeah.
And some stamp and some stuff. My buddy Dan Rosenboom here has a book out called The Boom Method, and he has this thing activating the airstream in the first couple of pages. So I do that, and I'm just kind of combining all these things and practicing like harder than I have in many years.
Yeah.
I go to my wife's church because it's abandoned right now because of COVID, and I have the keys, so I can go in there and I can practice in a nice room.
Yeah.
Without any interruptions.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to pray, I can pray. Whatever I want to do while I'm in there. Practice. I thought I heard somebody say, "Shut that shit up," while I was in there. And it came from above.
Well, it's probably because you're in there getting into the communion wine. So,
well, it's funny you should mention that. I wasn't altar boy. Well, I'm going to spare that story for another day. But I did remember tasting communion wine when I was an altar boy, because I wanted to know what it tasted like.
Well, my dad was a minister, so I used to go back into the little storage room where they had the wine and the crackers, and
Yeah, it's odd because I remember the wine was Mogen David.
Ours was Manischewitz.
Yeah, and this in the Catholic Church, though.
Yeah, yeah. Well, mine was AME. It's like, it's just the cheap shit.
Go for the worst wine ever.
It's like, come on. This is supposed to be, God. This is for God. Can't you get a good Cabernet or?
Yeah, I'm sure when he turned that water into wine, it was some high end, cab.
Yeah.
It wasn't any cheap bullshit.
It wasn't Boone's Farm.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I remember the story, Monsignor McGinnis, I was an altar boy. So you'd have to fill the chalice with water and then wine, they would mix it, and then he would do the prayer, and the bells would ring. And Monsignor McGinnis, he'd always lift the chalice up like right after you put 2 drops of water, and then you would empty the wine thing into it. So he was getting lit at 8:00 in the morning.
Hey, that's the best part of being a pastor.
I'm not judging him at all.
Who am I to say? But I think this is the important thing, Wayne. And if there's one thing that I would hope people get out of what you've gone through, what I've gone through, what anybody who's gone through these kind of catastrophic things, and even the people that, like right now, as we're still in the midst of this shitstorm that is COVID-19.
Yeah, we are.
I'm a firm believer that your life can either happen to you or happen for you. That you have the choice at every moment. Everything that happens, it just happens. There's no rhyme or reason to the universe. You can't sit around freaking out about, well, woe is me. Why did this happen to me? It just happened. Shit happens. But what's important is what you do, what decisions you make at that moment when things go sideways. Do you choose to fold, or do you choose to figure out a way to make that thing that you didn't want happen work to your advantage? Now, I was talking with Bobby recently, and we were discussing some other things, and we're talking about you, obviously, as most people always talk about you. You're the center of the universe.
My mother thought so, yeah.
Yeah. But Bobby was saying how, and he wanted me to express to you how happy he is for your recovery, and he's wishing you nothing but the best. But the idea that he's like, Wayne is a strong-minded individual, and I have the utmost confidence that Wayne is going to get through this, because he's just not going to give up. And I think that so many people, whether it's like in your situation where your physical condition created a problem for what you do for a living, and it's the same thing that happened to me. You know, you have to look at it and you have to make a change. Some people choose their changes to give up, and other people's change is to look at ways to do what they do more effectively and efficiently. And you're the kind of guy that's going to look for that answer, that how can I do this better? How can I pivot? How can I shift to still be able to do what I love, but to do it in a way that's going to be not destructive to me at this moment. So, when you're going through this and your thought processes as you're going through this, through the treatments, as you're rehabbing yourself in terms of your trumpet playing, what's going through your head at that moment?
Well, I mean, a little bit of fear, of course, because I've overcome some big obstacles. One was a dental obstacle many, many years ago. And I could barely hit a high C. It was, once again, I was a mess. And I sought out teachers and I started, going after it. And I came out of that a stronger player. I went through, in 2009, I lost a bunch of weight because I was going through a divorce. I developed a cyst on my top lip. I think you remember that.
Yeah, right.
And it threw me for a loop. And it got to the point, it's a long story, so I won't go through the whole thing, but I had to stop playing for 6 weeks. And I came through that, and I came out the other side of that a stronger player and a smarter player. So I'm assuming the same thing will happen now. This has been as much of a drag as those things were. This, is a little more serious here.
Right.
I had the fear for my life. Because you never know, man. There's no guarantees with this stuff, So I think I'm a better person outside of this cancer now,
right?
Because it's a humbling thing, man. When your life is in the mix, and you know this very well. And I've talked to other people about this,
Right.
And I'm part of a cancer survivor group it's cancer that I have. We all have the same thing. We had our meeting last night. And even though I don't know all those people real well, and some of them are strangers to me, we're all in this club.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm closer to some of them than I am with people that I actually know really well.
Yeah.
Because we're sharing the same story and our experiences, and I look forward to those meetings. And I was the newbie in there, and they were all telling me what to expect, because I hadn't started my treatment yet. Now there's this gal Lori, that was on there. And she just finished her radiation treatments. And so it's, I'm able to share my experiences with her and with the do's and do nots.
Right.
And, what to expect. And it's a good feeling to be able to help somebody maybe get through this a little easier.
Yeah.
Because it's a kick in the groin. It'll bring you to your knees, and I think I'm a pretty tough dude, man, but these treatments are no joke.
All right. Well, speaking of cancer survivors and members of the club, I want to bring a special guest in, and this is kind of a surprise to you. So here's a fellow trumpet player, a fellow cancer survivor, the one and only Mr. Jerry. Hey, give it up.
Jerry's connecting to audio. He's going to be with us.
Oh, there he is. Jerry, hey, what's up, Jerry?
He's connecting to audio.
Oh, he's connecting.
Technology failing us. There you are. Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Wayne. How you doing? Hey, Jose. How are you?
All right, Jerry. How's it going, buddy?
Great.
So this is too funny because, I was just talking to Jerry on the phone, checking notes on a part here because we're recording this thing for Bette Midler here and having to do it remotely, unfortunately. And so this is a big surprise, Jerry. I had no idea, man, you were doing this.
I got you.
You did get me, man. Wow. If I'd known Jerry was going to be here, I would have worn a much nicer shirt.
I would hope so, and I hope you have some good wine.
I have some wine, but I decided to go to because of Jose, because he likes tequila. So I have this.
That'll do the trick.
And I haven't done this since before I started my treatments.
Aha.
So I just figured, and this is it's kind of like a sipping tequila. It's got a little sweetness to it. So I figured with Jose, we would we would do this tonight.
Is that some sort of racial comment, Wayne? I'm like really offended by that.
Oh, well, you know what a racist I am. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've heard. I heard rumors.
Because your name's Jose and you're drinking tequila. I mean, my middle name is Jose, so it's Joseph, but that's Jose.
So Jerry, thanks for coming in, and
Sure.
we're just talking about some of the stuff that Wayne has been going through in terms of just kind of making that adjustment and facing your mortality, which as a trumpet player, especially as a lead trumpet player, that's really hard to do, to face the fact that you are actually destructible. So I know that you have gone through your own health issues and things like that. So, what kind of advice would you be able to give, not just to Wayne? I mean, because Wayne doesn't take advice from anybody, but what kind of advice would you be able to give just anyone, and specifically trumpet players, in how to deal with these kind of inevitable setbacks that we're going to face at some point along our career?
Yeah, well, sooner or later, everybody's not going to be first trumpet. It's where it kind of starts, and then you run into a brick wall with an injury, and who knows where that's going to end up. So some you just have to get in there and fight it out as best you can. Hopefully you come out the other end, like I think Wayne is going to. And sometimes you don't, like I didn't. I didn't make it out the other end quite as well as I was hoping to, but I'm alive. I feel great. All my test numbers and everything are great. So, you can only do what you can do. And live each day as best you can.
Yeah, as we get older, I'm 62. I'm still the young guy, though, for the most part, but I've always been, as far as trumpet playing anyway, I've always felt I'm pretty invincible. When I'm playing, I mean, not the greatest trumpet player, but as far as being on the bandstand and being the last man standing, playing endurance wise, when I play in Gordon Goodwin's band, I always make it to the end of the second set and everybody's crashing and burning and struggling. And somehow, so being hit with something like this, and as I get older, I'm not as invincible as I used to think I was, and so I rethink a lot of things now. And so you'd mentioned earlier, about just trying to become more efficient through the different tragedies that I've gone through my dental thing and this cyst and now this. And we try to reinvent ourselves, and just age alone can present a lot of factors, but then you add an illness or an injury to that, and we don't heal as fast as we get older, so this is a challenge for me. And playing wise, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, I don't, some things have changed in my playing a little bit from this, and there are things I'm going to have to adapt to. But I think I'll come out of the other side of this at least as strong as I was before I went in. That's how the trajectory is going right now for me. I'm practicing really hard right now. Like I said, I go to the church where my wife's had to get in there, and I've been practicing 3-4 hours a day and just going at it, and I'm seeing the improvement, but the arc is slowed down. I used to bounce back faster. And this is a butt kicker for me.
Yeah.
I know, Jerry, you weren't playing when you went going through. Can you imagine trying to play going through all that, the chemo and
No, I didn't. Well, I was still playing a little bit during my first round of chemo.
You were, okay.
Yeah, I was. And yeah, it was no fun. That's for sure. But I didn't have any radiation. Yeah, no, it's it just takes everything you got just to make it through all of the treatments. let alone trying to play the trumpet, which is hard enough.
I gave up on it for 3 weeks because I just got so sick. I was like, the trumpet, forget it. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because, the idea of, life is you experience life in the moment, but that's where you're living it. But it's the past that kind of gives it meaning, and the future is what gives it purpose. So I think sometimes, especially when we're younger, and actually, I'm the young guy. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm the young guy of this group.
Watch it. Watch it.
Hey, I'm
respect your elders.
Yeah, well, I respect my elders. But the thing is that it's the context that we get from the experiences. And it's like when you're younger, you don't have those experiences, so you can't really appreciate the things that you have. And as we get to that point in our lives where we have had these sometimes not go so good, but sometimes really fantastic experiences, that we have context for our lives. And I think for you, Wayne, and I think and Jerry especially, you and I have talked, in our interview together and stuff, that you guys have made such tremendous contributions. And sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you don't really understand the context, and it's not until you're on the other side of it that you can kind of look back, that it's being able to appreciate the things that you have been able to do in the past, and then look at what can I contribute at this moment, given the skills, the abilities, the opportunities that I have at this moment. How can I adjust my perspective? Because what you can do at 50 or 60 or 70 is different than what you could do at 20. How can I adjust, and how can I use my skills, my experience, my knowledge, my wisdom? How can I use that to create a deeper impact? And I think for most of us, unfortunately, it takes these kind of dramatic and traumatic experiences to help us to realize that deeper calling. So, how do you guys both view how the and I hate to say negative, because I don't think anything is negative. I think it's just how you approach it. It's not what you wanted to have happen, but how did something that you didn't want to have happen, that happened to you, present you an opportunity to do something even greater than you thought you were capable of doing?
Well, for me, it was, my issues started in the mid 80s, really. I had a tumor on my throat. And so that was kind of the beginning of a time that I had to do a really deep search, into, what's going to happen next. So, I decided to buckle down and say, okay, I'm going to play trumpet. I'm going to practice 10 hours a day, and I'm going to be so physically good that I can get over any of the other circumstances that I did. So, I did that for a while. I did that for 3 or 4 years, serious practicing and serious physical exercise and eating really well. I was in seriously great shape in mid to late 80s. And I was able to overcome any physical problems that the tumor was causing. But then it got to the point that you can only do that so long without really killing yourself. And, I took a look at it. It basically came down to Quincy for me again, as amazing as that is. Quincy had a double aneurysm when he was 41 or something like that.
Oh my God.
And, he played trumpet. And, I said, okay, Quincy doesn't play trumpet anymore. He's doing okay. I can do okay if I don't play trumpet like I used to play trumpet. I can, and because of Quincy, he got me on the arranging thing, and look where that led. I would have never done that would it not have been for, Seawind, Quincy.
Right.
So, you have to take take what's given to you. You know, if a door opens and you know that one door kind of on its way closed, and you know you got to walk through another door.
Yeah.
And you know, thank God for the pencil, because you know that's you know that's made it for me, really.
Right.
Well,
Right.
hey Jerry, your tumor, you know, because I didn't know you in the 80s, but your tumor it wasn't cancerous though, was it?
It was not.
And
I
so
had it.
you had it removed or something, right?
Nope, I did not. The I went to the head of eye, ear, nose, throat guy, doctor in the world who was at UCLA. And this guy was Dizzy Gillespie's doctor, and he had an X-ray film of Dizzy Gillespie playing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, crazy stuff. So, you know, I told him about it, you know, and I had a fine needle biopsy done so that, you know, they pulled out this needle literally this long. You probably know that, Wayne.
Well, they didn't do that with mine.
Oh,
They stuck the camera down my nose, and then they went through with some calipers that go like that, and then they did the biopsy by snipping it out. They numb my throat and then snipped a biopsy.
Yeah. Wayne's not familiar with anything that's longer than about this much.
No, my thing wasn't that it was curved. It was anyway. This thing went
down.
south very fast.
It was the Bill Clinton model.
But you know, they did a fine needle biopsy on it, and it was malignant. And then he said, you know, I said, well, what do I do? And he said, well, we can go in here. That's a real risky operation, or we can sever your windpipe and your vocal cords, and then we'll be right there. And I said, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be speaking like Miles Davis.
Talking like this.
So I basically said, you know, okay, I'm going to see if I can beat this. And, you know, then that's when I started, you know, serious exercise, serious practicing, went back to see Mr. Adam in Indiana several times to see what he could do. And, you know, I got physically so strong that I could overcome the feeling of because it was really messing with my air and stuff, that, you know, I could just kind of be above that.
Right.
You know, I did Roger Rabbit with London Symphony, and I would go out and I ran 5 miles at 5 o'clock in the morning before the session, and then practice for 2 hours before the session, just to get to the session to be able to play what I was going to have to play.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty funky, but you know, that was my commitment at the time. And you know, you have to do stuff like that at certain times in your life. You just make that commitment, do it. You know, if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, move on.
I'm kind of doing not as extreme as you, but I started taking Pilates. I'm doing 60 sit-ups a day, and I'm trying to embrace my new weight because I'm way thinner, you know, now. And instead of putting the weight back on, I'm trying to get strong here. So I'm going at it pretty hard, just going, okay, I'm gonna exercise.
Yep.
You know, and do it that way. And hopefully, you know, that will be that'll have positive. It seems to be having a positive outcome. So already, did this shrink, Jerry? Did the tumor shrink? Did they?
You know, I haven't. I had when I went back in 2009 when I went in for my cancer, and I had some MRIs. I had them do my neck. They didn't see anything.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's still, you know, I had Tom Walsh came in, Rashawn has come here. They want to take a lesson. You can't say, you know, well, your sound, that's not the right sound. You know, this is what it's supposed to sound like. You got to play.
Got to demonstrate.
But I tried to play, and I can't. It's like fingernails on my throat from that. Something got messed up, and it feels like my air is going from here around the side this way, and it just hurts like crazy. Yeah.
I have a little bit of that we talked about this when I was playing. You told me, you were warning me, be careful, be careful, be careful. Don't play too hard too soon.
Yeah.
And I was pretty careful about all of that. When I swallow, I mean, there's some scar tissue in there. I can just feel it when I swallow. My neck doesn't feel tight anymore, and I don't have pain anymore.
That's
But
good.
it's a different feeling when I play than it used to be, as far as my neck, you know.
I used to notice your neck used to puff out pretty good.
You know, but you know, when I was going through the treatments, my muscles got so tight from the radiation that my neck couldn't expand, and it hurt when I played because it couldn't expand. I mean, this has been Lorenza seal, I think it's called. It went when I was in high school. So I've had a bulging neck since then. You know, I've never hurt myself. I kind of play with my head down to support things a little bit, but it's never really caused any issues health-wise or anything.
Hey, yeah, well, yeah. Hey, Wayne, speaking of bulges, we have another guest that wants to join us. The one and only from all the way from New York, late night with David Letterman show, Mr. Frank Greene is joining us tonight as well.
Oh, this is another nice surprise here.
So,
hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Frank,
hey, how are you all?
get rid of that stupid background. Jesus.
I was trying to find Dodger Stadium. It wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah. Should have been the Lakers.
Frank, have you met Jerry before?
No, it'll be the first time. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. It's finally nice to meet Tom Malone.
Frank is an old friend of mine, man. And actually, we met. I told the story the other night, but we met in front of the Paramount and Edison Hotel, which were right next to each other. He was on the road with Woody Herman, and I was with Maynard. And we met out front, and he was telling him his woes about, you know, the tour, and
Roger.
We've been friends ever since then. I mean, we've just kept in touch and got to play several times together. And whenever I'm in New York, he's my first call, man, and we hang out. And he's a great swing and lead player, man, and one of my old favorites of all time. I mean, Frank is the real deal, man.
Frank is real, but you know what? There are so many people that want to show some love to you tonight, and we've got another one joining us from the Midwest, Mr. Walter.
Holy moly! Now we got a trumpet section here.
Hey guys.
Hey Walter.
Hey Walter.
Hi Wayne. Hi Jerry.
I'm good, man. What are you doing, man?
Great, man. Awesome to see you, man. Really, really great news, dude.
Thanks, man. Your CD, man, is ridiculous.
Oh, thanks, man.
It is ridiculous. I mean, this guy, Jerry, he's got Maynard's chops and Freddie Hubbard's fingers and ideas. And
he's got him in a jar.
He really does, man. And he's absolutely just,
Can we send somebody out there to, like, put a little hurt on him?
Yeah, he needs somebody to take this guy out of the picture, man. And he writes. He's a great writer as well.
Yeah, well, I know Johnny Trudell, and he's tight with the Detroit Mafia here. So
yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, so Wayne, I've there's still like 3 or 4 tunes that you played on that I didn't even put on the first record. So
Walter sent me some tracks to play, so him and I did I did first and third, and he did second and fourth, and he played solo parts, and
to avoid the phasing and just to make it better.
Yeah, it came out really fun. And Walter can write hard too, Jerry. I'm just letting you know.
I'd be happy to send it to you, Jerry, if you want. I'd want to hear it. I can send you a link to it if you want to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But that was to Wayne. I kind of threw this together behind your back because
you guys are going to make me cry, man.
Well, yeah, you little bitch. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Wayne. Like I said, so many people have been messaging me, and it's like they think I've got a direct line to Wayne Bergeron, but not really. I have to go through Frank Greene for all of these things. But you have impacted the lives of so many trumpet players, and this in so many ways that we talked about earlier, this brings a level of humanity to things, because this allows you to connect to people on a level that other players can't. So, but I thought it was very important for you to feel a little bit of the love of the people. It's and it's not the fanboy thing, because I me, I don't really care, but but I mean, you have names like Jerry Hay. Jerry is without a doubt one of the most influential players and just the figures in terms of popular music, and specifically for trumpet players. Jerry is the man. You and I have had several conversations about the impact Jerry's had on us as musicians, and just our love of music. You have Frank, who's done so much in terms of exposure of trumpet, like his years on the late night with David Letterman show, and all the other work that he's done with bands like Maynard and Woody and Walter, who's also just this tremendous talent who transcends what most people think about in terms of the possibilities of trumpet. All of these people feel a deep affection for you. So I just want you to appreciate the fact that you have made not just the trumpet world a little bit better, but you've made the world a little bit better just by being who you are. So thank you guys for joining us tonight for the hang. And Wayne, this is all about you, buddy.
Thank you, man. That's about the sweetest thing anybody's ever done for me, so it's very appreciated. And you guys all know how I feel about you. Well, Frank, and that's another story. But,
yeah, but that was 3 days in prison. You get lonely,
Yeah, but we got close. I mean, and it's good having some protection in prison too. That kind of thing.
That's a different kind of colonoscopy. We won't get into that.
So, you were talking earlier. You were talking earlier about, this has changed. Cancer has changed my life in a positive way, because I feel like I'm a different person now. I feel, and I don't know, I feel I'm more emotional about things all of a sudden. I value life more. I look forward to retirement more. I'm only 62, but I'm going, man, let me tell you something. If I won that lottery tomorrow, they'd be going, whatever happened to Wayne Bergeron? Because you would never see me again. My wife and I would run off to Fiji or wherever and go enjoy life. And I mean, trumpet's important to me, but it's not the most important thing anymore. And it used to be. It used to be like work, and man, I got to work, and why is such and such not calling me anymore? And and that now I don't think about too much, because nobody's calling me right now except for Jerry called me.
I get triple scale today.
Yeah, Jerry got me triple scale for this thing.
See, Jerry's bitching already. Come on, what a prima donna. Geez.
Frank said he would do it for double scale.
I'd do it for half scale. Come on.
So work has been was slow anyway, because now things are picking up a little bit. We've got a few things happening here and there, but you know what?
Yeah. I'm
not even sweating it anymore. I was kind of freaked out at the beginning of this, and and getting this good news, best Thanksgiving ever for me.
Yeah.
So
and for us as well.
Well, yeah,
that news, yeah.
Thanks. Not for everybody. Not everybody feels the way you do.
Yeah, well, we only know one person. Actually, to be honest with you, I feel like I know Jerry. I feel like I know Jerry because Tom talked about the name Jerry Hay came up and Letterman about every 15 minutes. I mean, Tom Malone. You should know Tom Malone really loves you. I mean,
and I do him too. He talks about you to me all the time too. So,
well, that was 4 days in prison, so that's a whole different.
Hey, so Frank, just so you know this, I don't know if you know, but when the trumpet chair changed on the Letterman show, Tom actually called me, because I don't even think he knew you at that time.
Yeah.
And he called me and he asked if I'd be interested in auditioning. And I go, well, I'd be relocating to New York.
Yeah.
And, and so I said, oh man, thanks. That's very sweet of you. But there's other players in New York, and I'm not going to move to New York. And then he told me he was going to call you, and you're the only person that auditioned. No, you auditioned and you got the gig. They didn't. Paul said, "Well, let's just use this guy."
Well, my mom wrote a fat check at Leo.
And then I talked to Paul about you, and we did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame out here a few years ago, and Bill Rockenbach and I and Tom Scott and Cipriano and Chris Lee were the horn section, and because they were too cheap to bring you guys out, his band, And but I talked to Paul about you quite a bit when we were there, and he just said, "Oh man, what a great player!" And we couldn't ask for a nicer guy, because you were fairly new on the show at that point.
Oh yeah. Well, I just know it's nice to go full circle with this group, because I know, like I said, I probably feel like I know you way more than you probably would be comfortable with me knowing you, because Tom literally talked about you every day. So I just want you to know, because now that Tom's not here to lie. Yeah,
now, Tom and I go back. It was so crazy. The bass trombone player, Woody's band, when I was on, was Don Switzer, and he left the band, and all of a sudden this guy comes on playing bass trombone. Okay, cool. And I'm practicing in the back room, warming up. He says, "Let me see your trumpet." He plays bass trombone, starts on, let me see your trumpet. Who are you?
Yeah, it's sickening, right? It's
crazy. But, of course, I knew him through Gary. They went to school.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Malone was Gary Grant's best man at
That's right, yeah.
So, so we go back to then, and then it was I did the last waltz with Tom.
Yep.
So we've done a few things together, and super guy. And he was out here a couple of years ago, and we had dinner, and then I made dinner here at my house. I had to open good wine for him and everything.
Yeah. Because Tom, at his apartment, he had the apartment right by the show, and he would have these big, huge, super magnums of wine. It's like it replaced the furniture in his apartment. So Tom.
Yeah. Well, it's great to see, so many people think about, especially in the lead trumpet world, because I mean, you look at this list of guys. You got Wayne Bergeron, you've got Jerry Hay, you got Frank Greene, you got Walter White. All of you guys, none of you guys can hold a candle to me in terms of your lead chops. But just kidding. With that,
we've all got better hair than you.
Yeah, well.
Number one. Wait, you're number one.
You're number one. But it's the thing that this is not about like this ego kind of centric thing. It's a brotherhood. It's a fraternity, and we all love each other, and we all respect each other. And we all want to see each other, just really shine and just do so much great. And I'm so happy to be able to facilitate this in so many little ways. But like Frank, your ability to be like the connector in so many ways with Jerry and Wayne and Tom and Walter, all of your experiences. So here's what I want to do. I want to do this real quick. Because I've got a couple of the people that are trying to get in here, and we're trying to work out some technical issues. Uh-oh. So
Frank and I played together on Maynard's band, right? And Woody's band.
We played together on Woody's band. On Maynard's band, you left me high and dry, Walter. Thanks.
That's right. It was just a couple Woody gigs, right? Sorry, bro. Well,
yeah, Maynard. I think he said, and you two can never work. And what was I talking about?
Had my story card punched enough times by then.
Oof, yeah, I hear you there.
So go ahead, Jose. Sorry, man.
No, I was just saying that you guys have all you all got your battle scars, and we've been talking. Wayne and Jerry have been talking about how the lessons that have been learned through the years, and particularly in terms of dealing with life-threatening diseases like cancer. And while I know Frank and Frank and Walter, you have not had thank God you have not had that experience. And let's pray to God that you don't have to deal with this question.
Well, my mom died of cancer when I was right before I went on Woody's band, and my dad told me that she had cancer, and I flew to California from Dallas, and she died a day and a half later. So I mean, I have a bit of experience with it, because she suffered it before we knew, but by the time I found out, I saw her for a day and a half. So it's a horrible, despicable thing. So I don't want to tear up, but I'm glad you guys are here.
Yeah.
You and Wayne and Jerry and Tom Malone. I mean, three people that the planet would not spin quite right if you guys weren't here.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that, as being a cancer survivor myself, is trying to help people to understand that it certainly that when you have something that goes sideways, it helps you to understand the importance of life. But it's so much better if you can figure that out before shit goes sideways. So when you look back at your life and if you're able to think about things that made you go, hey, this is really a blessed life, or these are the things that when I was younger, I wish I had really considered the importance of. What are some of the things that you would want to say to like those younger players who feel like they're invulnerable, who feel like they're never going to have an illness, they're never going to have chop issues, they're never going to have to go through some of the stuff that we've all had to experience just because of our ages? What are some of the things that you wish that this new generation of trumpet players that are emerging? What are some of the lessons that you would want them to learn to help to put them in the best position to move the art of trumpet playing forward?
I don't know, man. I'll just jump in. I mean, besides like absorbing all music when you're young and getting all the styles into your head, I think it's something that I didn't get a lot of education in was the business part of music. I was so concerned with being a great trumpet player and a great musician that when it came time to taking care of business, like I wish I had the acumen that Jerry and Wayne have, and I
can't tell people to fuck off, Walter, all the time. It feels good.
I'll try to use that more. But yeah, nobody ever like it really hit me to that whole thing, not only about the music business, but life in general. It was just like I was in my little artistic bubble all the time, and that was great for becoming a great artist. But it's like, kind of, I wish I was in a better place, at my stage of life, being 57, 58, whatever, for retirement and all that I didn't really have that in place when I was a young man, when I first started out. Did Jose split, or is he? No.
Oh, we're trapped here for eternity.
Shooting up or something. He didn't want to do that. So,
but that's yeah. Anyway.
Well, I think that for me, it was studying with Mr. Adam. This guy was just the best person you could possibly meet, and he treated everybody with the same kind of respect that you would expect to be treated, regardless of who you are, how great a player you were, how bad a player you were. He just treated everybody the same. And then coming and meeting Quincy and seeing that same thing from him, the guy who was cleaning up the coffee cups in the studio, he would be as genuine with him as he would be with Michael Jackson, and to see how you treat people, if you can treat people like that, that's, for me, that was like a serious learning experience for me from both of those guys.
I've always tried to, live my life that way, because I've seen many people who remain nameless that might be famous, and I watch how they treat waiters or waitresses. They talk down to them or whatever, and if somebody's not as important. And so I've always tried to treat everybody equally that way as well. And that's quite a great lesson to teach younger people to be humble. My line is always, look, you play the trumpet, you're not curing fucking cancer. You're not that important. you know, so lose the bullshit and be the best player you can be and enjoy playing music and treat people well. And if, you know, especially if somebody's at a young age, like you get a 15-year-old trumpet player that's exceptional, right? Well, they're not really ready for that, you know, and so their ego is huge and they're like, look what I can do, especially with the trumpet, you know, my God, you know. And so they treat their colleagues at their same age like shit, you know, instead of, and I've had this talk with a few young trumpet players over the years that who remain nameless also, because you probably know who they are. But I've called them on that and I said, look, man, why don't you mentor one of the, you know, help them, you know, instead of like, you know, pulling rank with your ego, you know. So that's something I try to ingrain into all students that I come across, to be a nice person, treat everybody equally, because that comes back, you know, it comes back to you later, man. I believe in karma, man. And I, in my own experience, when I was younger working at Disneyland, hey, Dan and Gordon, I had a lot of people, there was a lot of egotistical trumpet players there.
Name one.
I'm not gonna, I'll get to that in a minute.
Frank Greene.
But people that thought you always felt like they thought they were a little bit better than you, and they looked down their nose at you because you were the new person or whatever. And frankly, I've passed all those players up on the ladder to success. And so, and I have to come down, and I come down the ladder once in a while just to step on their fingers and go, you remember that? Oh, you remember how you treated me? And all right, it's okay. Come on up, man. Everything. All right.
For those of you who are only on the audio feed of this, shame on you. But we have just been joined by Dan Fornero. Dan, who is the wingman oftentimes for Wayne Bergeron. So basically, he's the guy that props Wayne up when he's shitting himself, basically, and the man who challenges Wayne on a consistent basis. One of the greatest arrangers, composers for big band music that there is in the business today, Mr. Gordon Goodwin. So thanks, gentlemen, for joining this hang. What's up?
Yo, Dan and Gordon.
All right, so before I lose my spot in the line on this thing, mine is really simple. I feel like if everyone could know Clark Terry as soon as possible, then you wouldn't really need to do much else, because Clark had a head for a lot of things. He suffered, you know, he and Joe Wilder, they suffered a lot of injustice just because, you know, they just look different. And they were able to be joyous and be happy in spite of the fact that that's happening. And I feel like if you have those guys for mentors, you can't possibly have an ego when you play with Clark Terry. I mean, it's just not possible. Frank, you'll never feel like you're the best.
Do you have this book, Frank?
Of course, that's a great book, right?
What is that, Wayne?
Joe Wilder.
It's a great book.
It's, you know, you really learn a lot about what Frank's talking about right here.
So, you know, one of the things that I really loved about playing in the Dizzy Gillespie band here in New York was because James Moody was in the band, and Slide Hampton was playing lead trombone, and Jimmy Heath and Frank West were in the saxophone section. So just that hang alone made it so nice. It's like a mentorship band. It's like I wasn't sure if it was a gig or a mentorship session. So, man, I'm so thankful to have those guys, because I think, like I said, Wayne, it's just impossible to think that you're the best at anything, because, like you said, we're not curing cancer, and all at the same time, we get to do something that's really fun. I think that people sometimes lose sight of that, you know.
Yeah, anybody that's met James Moody, you know, you want to find out what being nice to everybody is all about. You know, I never met Frank West from these, but I'm sure they were all just kind of the same kind of mold, you know.
All the same, yep. Slide, same way. Everyone's the same.
James Moody's kissed me better than most women I've met in my life.
Yeah. and then you smell like James Moody.
That's only three, right?
Yeah, but it's only been a couple. Actually,
yeah, my wife would say, I kissed James Moody, and for 6 hours I smell like James Moody. Because he'd wear all those oils, you know, and it's like, ooh.
Well, hey, Frank, have you read Clark's biography?
Clark Terry's?
Clark Terry's, yeah. Because
we have the
what
house.
you're talking about is so relevant, because you can see the kind of injustice, racism, and things that he had to endure in his life, and for him to go through that and still be the man that he was, and the generous, open spirit is really saying something.
Yeah.
Well, I used to tease him. I said, I think I know why you're so nice. Every day you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and you realize you're Clark Terry. You're like, oh, we're good.
Well, but see, Frank, that's a really great point, because for so many people that are tuning into this podcast, they're looking at this and they're going, well, yeah, it's easy for you to feel this way because you're Frank Greene, you're Walter White, you're Gordon Goodwin, you're Dan Fornero, you're Wayne Bergeron, you're Jerry Hay, you're all of these, people that we, as these humble grassroots musicians that we look up to. It's so easy for you to look at music and business and life as being this special thing because you've achieved what we want to achieve. But people don't grasp the idea that, you guys have paid the dues. You've
yeah, but if I was Jerry Hay, I wouldn't even be on this call right now. I'd be like watching. Yeah, you dig?
And just with your wine locker alone, I wouldn't even be wasting time with this.
Well, honestly, Frank, I wish you were Jerry Hay so you could get off the call. So just.
So I gotta just throw in a Clark
story.
The
bridge.
I want to throw a Clark story here. When I was taking trumpet lessons in junior high, I asked my trumpet teacher, I want to hear this jazz. I'm listening to Doc Severinsen, Maynard, and Chase and stuff. And who should I listen to for jazz? And he said, Clark Terry. And I said, who's that? Right. So he said, well, go buy this record. So I went out and bought this record, and he played Donna Lee on this record, which I had never heard before. And it seemed like he was tonguing every note. It was just ridiculously fast and clean and ridiculous. And I couldn't get my head around it. It was unbelievable. You fast forward to 1983, I'm on Woody's band, and we're playing in Nice on the big outdoor stage and at the festival. And Clark Terry's our guest artist, and he comes out there, and they had Paul Mazzio and Mark Lewis were the soloists in the band. I was playing first trumpet, and Woody looked up at me and said, "You," and he pointed to me and said, "Come on down and blow with Clark." Which is really not the best idea. And I got down there, and so I did my thing best I could. I was completely overwhelmed by it all. And he couldn't have been more gracious as he completely carved my ass, man. It was
He was very nice. He was kicking my ass all over the stage.
Honest to God. It was something else, man. I was like, wow, there's my big moment with my first, unreal. Anyway.
Wow.
But Woody was funny. He was kind of a little bit mean like that, right? He would know that we got two guys that can really love to be here. So let's get the guy that doesn't want to be here to come solo. Because Woody had that little bit of an evil streak. Remember that?
I didn't feel that.
Roger Ingram tends to hang over a little bit past the cutoff, as we all know.
No,
just going to say that now. The reason I'm saying this is that we were doing a fan for the common man, and Woody had just had enough, and so he waited. So he went to that last chord, and Woody has his hands up. He turns around and faces the audience as he did, right, and then he waits for Roger to reattack the note. The second Roger reattacked the note, Woody cut the tune off, and he turned around, looked at Roger, pointed to him, went. So
I've heard that story.
Woody, he had that in him. We know that he had that in him. So
Anyway, Wayno. So I was told that the purpose of this gathering is to for you to talk about your cancer recovery and all of that. And I'm sure that happened in the 45 minutes before I got here. But hell, we're all just so happy for you, man. And
oh man,
you've come back in a great way. We've had the opportunity to play together a little bit in the last few weeks, man. And you're back on its ass, and it's really something, man. Really inspiring, man.
Thanks, Dan.
Did you talk at all about the moment when you found out that you were cancer?
Well, I didn't tell the story of what happened. So on the 9th, I had my PET scan, and 2 days later, I got the results. But I was on a recording session, and we were just coming back from lunch, and it was just a brass section because it was the COVID thing. We were social distance at Fox, and I come back from lunch. I sat down and I look at my phone, and it's Kaiser calling. And I told the contractor, Dan Savant, I have to take this call.
This is just after the lunch break, I think.
Yeah, and he goes, "Oh yeah, go. We'll wait for you. We'll wait." So I go outside, and I'm out there for 6-7 minutes, whatever, and I get the the news, and I come back and everybody's staring at me, and I come back with my head down, kind of, and I went like, yeah, and then I went and walked over to my seat and I cried for 10 minutes, so.
It was unbelievable, man. I mean, he just wept and people were screaming. The room was erupting. There was no recording going on. It just took over the whole thing.
So it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. But I want to tell you about the phone call because I can tell you about poor doctor etiquette. So one of my doctors, because at the Kaiser, you never see the same fucking doctor twice, every time. Oh, who are you? Oh, I guess, all right, you're in charge of me now, He calls it, this is Dr. Vasquez, who I had met before. And he said, we got the results of your PET scan. And we see some residual activity, which is normal. And your PET scan is clean, and I'm glad I was able to bring you this good news today, Now, rewind. The way that should have gone is, hi, Wayne, this is Dr. Vasquez. I have some great news for you. Your PET scan, came up clean. There's some residual activity that's just very normal that we see in the background, and congratulations. That's how that should have went. Because when he paused, I'm like,
waiting for a butt.
I'm going, wow, I got to walk back in and tell everybody, they didn't get this, and so it's just their etiquette sometimes is so lame. They just forget they're talking to a human being. And give me the good news. Tell me it's good news first, or tell me it's bad news right away. Either way, I want to know. So that's how that went down. And
who's the guy on the screen there? Who's that?
We got trouble coming on here.
Oh, now this is real trouble.
Oh, this is.
I tell you what.
Oh no!
Shit has just gotten real, ladies and gentlemen. It has just got real. Gary Grant is in the house. Hey, thank you so much for hanging with us today. This podcast is all about creating connection through our mutual love for the trumpet life. I hope that you learned a few things about today's guest and had some laughs along the way. Don't forget to give us a review. We love those 5-star ratings. And please share this podcast with your friends. We want to see our hang grow for show. Have a suggestion for a future topic or a guest? Hit me up at thetrumpetgurus@gmail.com. Our opening theme was written and performed by Lexi Signor, and all other music comes courtesy of The Greatest Funeral Ever. So in the words of W.C. Handy, life is like a trumpet. If you don't put anything into it, you don't get anything out. So go out there and let your trumpet sound. And I'll see you at the next hang.